So, you're looking for an amazing relationship. This is going to apply to everybody. I am going to frame it in the daddy dom little girl dynamic, but you can basically adjust it to whatever works for you. Relationships, it's funny. Jealousy is a weird thing. Like, we see people sometimes have something that we desire or we want, and we don't always think about the work that goes into it. And a really good example of that is my best friend. He works his ass off. I mean, he works so hard for what he has, and he's by all metrics successful. Not necessarily mine, but by all the modern sort of, good business. House is already paid off. He's young. I mean, he could essentially retire at 30 years old. And so he's really successful, but it's definitely come at a price. And it would be really easy for me to look at my life and think, oh man, I wish I had that. Like, but I didn't have to give up what he had to give up to have it. And the reality is I could have it. If I was willing to pay the price that he paid, I could have it. And so instead, I'm able to look at him and say, okay, you made your choices and you have your things as a result of your choices. I made my choices. I have my things as a result of my choices. And I'm really happy for you, man. That's awesome. Like, how can I support you? How can I be your friend? How can I help you get more of what you want? And hopefully, you can help me or support me in getting more of what I want. Now, I've really put a lot of effort into growth, understanding of myself, and relationships, human relationships, and understanding humans and understanding interactions, and I guess in general philosophy, psychology, things like that, which it's not tangible. It's all things that are in my head. It's cause and effect. It's my reactions and responses to things, and they don't all come easy. So I wanted to make this video to kind of just be realistic and say, give you a little bit of an idea of what my journey's been like and some tools that I've used to really help me. Now, one of the biggest obstacles to overcome is the idealization. A relationship is not easy. A daddy-dom little girl relationship is definitely not easy. I mean, it's like taking a already regular relationship and then just turbocharging it in terms of difficulty. And I'm not gonna say it's better or worse. I'm gonna say ideally you choose it because it's just what you have to do anyway. For me as a daddy, I have to be a daddy, and I have gone about that in horrible ways before I even understood what was going on within. I dated people that were unhealthy because I needed to care for them, and I needed to try to fix them, and I needed to try to create structure for them, and I needed guidance, and I needed to be looked at in a certain way, and I needed to give these things, and I needed to feel a certain way. And when you choose that in a partner that doesn't want that, it's obviously a disaster. You're giving, and there's really just not the exchange that you need there to make that giving sustainable, and so it becomes draining. And there's a flip side of that for a little girl as well. If she's in a relationship with somebody who's not actually a daddy, but instead is just a narcissist, which I could see happening all the time, where a little girl ends up with a narcissist, or a daddy ends up with somebody that's unhealthy and wants to be saved or something like that. So idealizations are a huge thing. You need to remember when you see somebody in a healthy spot, for one, you never know if they're actually healthy. When you see a couple, when you're flipping through social media or something, and you are looking at these couples, and you're kind of idealizing the dynamic and what you think they're like and what you think they interact like and how easy you think it may or may not be for them, you need to remember that that's probably not the actual reality of it, that it's probably not that easy, that it's probably a struggle, because it is. I can guarantee you, if you see two people in a relationship, they have problems. If it seems like they never fight, that in itself is a problem, because there is a certain amount of call it bickering, debating, arguing, whatever, that's healthy and necessary. So if they're never fighting, they probably just don't give a fuck enough. So some of the things that I've used to help me have been books. Now, if I recommend a book, it's big shit. I'm not an avid reader. I don't like reading. I will only read a book if there is no other source for me to consume that information. And that's the end of it. Like, so if I recommend a book, there's a reason why I'm recommending it. And the books I'm going to recommend, I'll link them all down below. They're all relatively inexpensive. But the books that I'm going to recommend are all sort of different layers. And the order, I'll explain them a little bit. But the way you choose to layer them would obviously be up to you, and the areas you feel like you're lacking, the things you feel like you need to learn. Now, there's a couple that I actually gave away and no longer have. One of them being this one right here. Can you see that? It's called If the Buddha Dated. Now, this was recommended to me by a friend of mine that is I'll almost say she was a mentor. I met her when I was young and had newly moved to Arizona, and she was probably one of the wisest people that I had ever met, and she told me to read the book. It's just a great book for sort of setting your expectations a little differently, and for analyzing, what is and isn't healthy in a relationship, and for being more realistic in general. I feel like I'm saying a lot, so I apologize. I'll try to figure out if I'm doing that. It's difficult when you have those like speech pattern habits. But the book, haha, caught myself. There's this realization that I had where I kept wanting somebody that was a better fit for me. I kept thinking, oh, better fit. I'll find a better fit. Like, this doesn't quite match. Oh, we have some issues in this area. And so I kept thinking, I need to find a better partner for me. And I had this epiphany that I needed to just be a better partner. That was the reality of it. That it was easier for me. It was just ultimately easier all around, energetically, and for me to work on a partner that I'm with and try to grow together, provided they're willing, than it was to keep jumping ship only to find an equal number of different problems that needed to be addressed. There was never a net gain or loss in terms of energy that would have needed to be expended. It was just in different areas. And certainly there's some areas that are more palatable. One person's a messy person, one person's a clean person. I'm a late nighter, so being with a fellow late nighter is great. There's some little things like that. But life goals are a little different than, problem areas or character flaws that need to be addressed and we need to grow on. So the realization of being a better partner certainly helped, because you really do attract what you are. And if you find that you keep ending up in relationships with people that have a deficit, even if they seem like awful people, or even if they seem malicious or whatever, there is an opposite negative quality in yourself that is either being exploited or something that needs to be addressed. Now, of course, you could just be looking for somebody to take care of you, and you want to listen and you want to follow, and they're just a shithead. But that's a problem as well, because being the best little girl that you can for a daddy also means knowing how to set boundaries and being able to be assertive when needed, and knowing that a daddy's going to find security in that, knowing that he's not going to push you to a point that you break or you're not happy. I find a lot of peace in knowing that a little girl or a partner, a friend, or whoever in my life will speak up. It allows me to be more assertive without having to overthink it. So, next book, let's see, what do we go to here? So, this one is a really short book. It's important just in terms of your relationship with yourself. If you have a better relationship with yourself, this definitely fits the being a better partner category. The work you put into yourself will pay you back exponentially in your relationship. That's essentially a guarantee. This book, The Perfect Pandemic. This is a funny one. I've ended up losing this book twice to people I borrowed it to or whatever, so I've bought it multiple times, but I've also brought it up in other videos. But it's a good book to get a better idea into your programming and your psychology, how you work, and sort of your brain's like trigger or reward systems, and maybe a little bit better insight into why you do the things you want to do. Let's see. We'll go to this one next. The Games People Play. This is a great book in not only if you read it and you identify with some of it, understanding your own patterns, but also the shit that people can do to try to manipulate you, essentially. So whether you're a daddy or a little girl, I think all of this is important. Having the perspective, seeing the other side of it, gives you a really good, clear window into what's going on and what you should be able to realistically expect from a partner. So Games People Play, it'll help. It's a good book. I would read it. This one, again, whether you're a little girl or a dominant, The Loving Dominant, I've brought it up before, and it's definitely a book that everybody should read. If you are submissive, you should read it. You should have some idea of what's going on for a dominant, and what is reasonable, how they should be thinking, and that way if you're being treated in a particular way, you have a little better insight into damn it, I keep saying fuck. Okay. Isn't it weird how we have those? I watched a guy fuck, I did it again. I watched a guy in a video and he kept saying okay. Drove me nuts. I couldn't even watch the video because it was so annoying. And here I am with this In all fairness, I do my videos on the fly. I just go for it, and like I didn't even pick out what I would say about the books or what order I would show them in. So sometimes I need that extra second to compose my thoughts so I can blurt some shit out. But read the book. If you're submissive, especially read the book. I would almost say it's more important for a submissive to read than a dominant. I wish there was a good book on submissives that I had found, and there may be. If you know it, please feel free to comment with it, but I would read that as well. Another, Getting the Love You Want. There's a type of therapy called Imago therapy, and it's essentially, we seek out the lessons that we need to learn, and a partner that can act as a mirror and sort of reflect those things and give us the space to learn them. They're like a poultice, or like something that you put on to pull out the toxins, kind of a thing. And that's like the conventional thinking behind it. So this is a thicker book for sure, but it's worth the read. Yeah, I would definitely read it, because you are sometimes going to find yourself in situations where your partner is actually a healthy person. They actually do have your best interests at heart. These things are important because you don't want to be in an abusive relationship and applying a lot of what I'm talking about. It wouldn't go well because the person doesn't have your best interests at heart. In a daddy little girl dynamic, in any dynamic, really the relationship should always come first. So it should always be what are we? A team. What comes first? Us. It should always be like that. And if you're with an unhealthy partner, it frequently isn't. They're typically trying to get something that serves the best interest of them, oftentimes at the expense of the relationship. Now, 2 more books. One relating to the Loving Dominant, which I did another video on, so I'm not going to go in depth on it here, but it's actually called The Color of Kink. And this is really specific to BDSM, and if you happen to also be black, a black female, dealing with some of the social issues that would come along with that. I bought it on, let me see here. I bought the book. They have the book, I don't know if you just saw the price tag on it, but they have the book at $30. Let me see. Yeah, 1 second. So as you can see, I must have some credit or something, but I bought it back in November, and I think it was like $15 or something on ebook. I'm not a big fan of ebooks. I actually only bought it on ebook because I wanted to support the artist or the writer. I definitely wanted to read the book, and fuck $30 for a book. Seriously, fuck that shit. And then the last one that I will talk about is it's called Hold Me Tight. And it's I would say it's a toss up. If you wanted to read Hold Me Tight or Getting the Love You Want, they both they're both relationship related books. They cover a little different area, but essentially, the goal is maybe this is a little bit more growth. Hold Me Tight is a little bit more understanding, but they essentially do the same thing. So those are my thoughts on some of this. Reading a book isn't going to help all by itself. And the reason I gave so many books is because it's like you sort of need this and this and this to move into this or this. There's a little bit of a stepping process. I don't think there's any order that's particularly right, but I would say since these are the most related to self-understanding, I would say these are probably the most important to start with, and maybe this one. But that's it. That's all I have to say on these. I'm going to try to do a couple more BDSM videos, daddy little girl stuff. I realize that a lot of my older stuff isn't, the lighting's not good, the audio's not as good. I probably didn't say as much, but I guess that is what it is. So I may try to cover a few more of those topics and maybe put some warnings out there and put maybe some of the difficulties, some of the struggles that I have with being a daddy, some of the things that are just fucking hard about it, because it's definitely not always easy. And if it was always just taking a shower, washing a little girl's hair, and cuddling, man, everybody'd be fucking doing it. Like, it's hard. It's definitely hard to have that sort of double thing, like your partner, and then also that dynamic on top of it that you have to respect and protect. So this hopefully will get you started some. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. My contact info is in the About section, and you're welcome to comment down below if it's something that you think everybody would benefit. Otherwise, you can use the contact info if it's something more situational or personal. But and that's it. All right, I'm done. Peace out.